Hey everyone, welcome back to my first day in tech, the Careerist podcast. I am one of your hosts, Andrew Riddle, and I am here with Kamitha. Kamitha, how are you doing?
Good. Hey, everybody.
We're touching on a topic today that I think everyone kind of worries about, especially with the economy and having to move back and forth, like pivoting into tech. Moving, starting a new job, starting a new career. Especially coming from industries that may not be tech based. What's your experience with that? What are your thoughts on this?
So this is an interesting, it's not touchy anymore. But we briefly talked about the whole ageism or age bias or whatever we want to call it. And for me, it was interesting because I'll be 40 in July, right? And so even though that's not that old, in the tech world when you're next to 23-year-olds coming straight out of college, making as much money as you do, knowing things differently than you know them, especially in a more technical way, because in a lot of ways, when you're straight out of school, your brain's different. Like you're learning a certain way, and so that part can be intimidating. So for me, um, I had to get over it. Like, and it's better said than done. I'm saying it as though it's really easy. But it was something that I had to overcome. And it was a personal thing that I had in my mind. I do think that it exists, but I think that our world is changing so rapidly that we're at this really sweet spot where every perspective matters. And so this ageism thing, although it still matters, it doesn't matter as much as it used to because we're the ones building the world right now, if I'm being honest, right? So, but yes, it is a thing, in my opinion, at least if I'm being honest. Yes, it is a thing, but that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's a thing or not. The only thing that matters
Yeah,
is that you do what it takes to get what you want. So, but
right.
yeah, it
I
is it is a thing that I experienced.
I agree. I mean, just the turbulent economic life that, I mean, honestly, I feel like we've had for so long, and you just never know. And really, what's our number one priority, right? Like making sure that we're taking care of ourselves and our families, right? So, not always, we don't have the benefit of just being like, oh, I'm moving from one awesome job to another. Like things get hard, right? And you have to pivot. And I agree that, like, I think, age bias in the office place, I feel like that is kind of heading out the door. And I know that, I'm sure and know that it still exists out there. Um, but I think especially in tech, um, and where I was thinking about this um, in product design and having to deal with stakeholders and design and pitches and marketing and all of that kind of stuff, right? And someone I work with, and like she's amazing at dealing with stakeholders, like amazing. And so I was talking to her about it, and I was like, she has kids, she has family, and all that kind of stuff. She's like, honestly, I learned how to do this from fine dining. Like that's where I picked up these skills of just, like having to like, all right, calm, composed, dealing with big egos, like staying it together, right? And I think that when you're pivoting, I think people have to remember that, and we touched on this before, like you're taking a lot of skills with you into the next marketplace. And I think keeping that in mind is really important just for maybe you're like, emotional well-being and feeling like you're not just a stranger and like this new area. But I know that in my experience, everyone brings something different to the table and all those perspectives are really important. And they don't all have to be from the same industry or whatever. It's how can we help solve this problem from a different perspective? And people are saying, well, in my experience, when I did this or when I did that, I'm like, that's great. Like that's a perspective we don't have. That could really help us solve this issue. Um, and I think that is a huge benefit of coming into, tech or product or whatever it is, from a different industry or what have you. I think that is a real big strength, actually.
I agree. I think it's how you play on it, right? Or how you communicate it. And I think it's probably like, why not give examples? So I'll give you an example. So I've been in the industry for a while, right? But it's been about 3 years or close to 3 years now that I had to literally go through the whole job process again and fill out 150 applications and maybe get 5 calls back and fingers crossed, nail two of those interviews to get the job that you want, right? The statistics. And so I think maybe we should take just a couple minutes and just talk about what some of those strengths are because um, at least from my experience being an instructor with Careerist, some, or at least half of my students were around my age, right? Or in their 30s, or they have family and they're more established and they've had a career, even like not just jobs, but they've had a career. And they're going to have to speak to that when they're in that interview, and they have to tell the hiring manager why they're choosing to pivot their entire life,
Right, right,
their
right.
career. I'll give an example too, of course, but um, you're really good at that stuff, and the examples and stuff. One of our hashtags are going to come out of this. So, like, what examples would you give someone who may be dealing with the quote unquote ageism, or they're coming in thinking that they're quote unquote too old, which does not exist, by the way.
It
But
does not
what advice
exist.
would you give them?
We just get better. We just get like a fine wine, we just age out there. Honestly, I think imposter syndrome, right? That's a big, big thing, right? And
Yeah.
that's for any age, any job, any pivot. Like we all get worried about that. But I think the confidence comes from within, right? So I would say, you know, um, know your strengths, right? Or you know, have that confidence within yourself. So when they go, okay, well, what do you bring to the table? You're like, well, I've been out of the, maybe you've been out of the job, the industry for a while. You're like, I run a household with 6 kids. Like I know how to schedule, I know how to manage, I can deal with egos, I can deal with time, and I can do it all without losing my mind. I'll be like, that's someone I want on my team. Like that's an amazing thing to bring to the table. And I think people are real worried about it, right? Because they think they're like, well, like when they're asked, like, what are your strengths? There's this idea that their strengths should be something, like tech related, like or whatever. But really it's those what have we decided we're going to call them human skills, right? It's those human skills that you can bring, right? Because that's it. I mean, like great. I love someone who's like Figma power. Great. Is that going to be around forever? Probably not. Like we can teach those things, but someone who comes to the table with a strong confidence that says, "Well, I know how to pivot. I know how to use these skills that I have as a person, and I can do that to help solve these problems with you guys." And that's a huge thing, and I love to see that confidence. And I like to see that dynamic quality in a team as well. When you hire people who are all the same, who have the same voice and same opinion, you're not going to move forward. There's no progression in that. And I think that's something that, and it's really, really hard when you're looking for a new gig, right? Or you're trying to pivot into a new industry. You're saying, I'm 40 years old. Can I really do this? The answer is yes. The answer is
Yes, you
absolutely
can.
yes. And those doubts that you have in your head, right? That's a conversation you're having with yourself, right? So you're completely in control of that dialogue. So pivot that dialogue, pivot to a more constructive dialogue. Be like, yeah, like I can do these things. Like I'm have these abilities, or I have these hobbies that have allowed me to do these certain, whether it be like, I don't know, showing that your entrepreneurship of whatever it may be, and use that as a strength. It could be anything. I think people, go in with confidence, take a little time to like have your own mantra for yourself, and then, so, I have worth. Like I am a person of worth and I can bring something to the table. I think that's a very important thing for anybody walking into the interview to remember. But especially people who, think that, maybe they're too seasoned to pivot in their career. You're never too seasoned to take on a new challenge.
You could say that again, especially not in the world that we live in. And I'll tell you what's worked for me. It's taking the things that I've done and using it to showcase my skills. For example, I love examples because I do really good with that. So I waited tables, right, for a couple of years. Let's say that I was a waitress or something like that. I would say, hey, being a waitress allowed me to not only communicate with a lot of different personalities, but observe and learn the different personalities. So it's one thing to go to a table to take an order. It's another thing to calm down a customer that may be a little irate because their food's bad. It's another thing to calm down a group of 20 people because their check came on one check and they all want them separated. Right. There's a lot of human skills and a lot of there's that word again. There's a lot of human skills that come with that I'm able to bring to this organization. If I'm a teacher, my ability to create lesson plans for weeks or months at a time allows me to not only time box to be more effective in the way that I talk, communicate, and work, but I am able to now assist with scoping quarter four, 2, 3 months in advance because that is a skill that I practice in the teaching world. That's something that I could bring to the table. I mean, if you were a janitor, like your ability to be able to do things quickly, the what is it, ambiguity, right, of mopping floors, like it's silly, but the fact that you're able to do that and you created a rhythm in your mind means when you're working from home by yourself, you're going to be just as effective because you've created this skill that's not mopping floors, but it's the consistency of doing something the same way over and over and over. So if you're able to like pick whatever you're doing, whatever your last 3 or 4 jobs, with whatever they were, and you're able to, take the skill out of it. Man, if you were a garbage man, like, take the skill out of being consistent with weather. You're out there rain, sleet, hail, or snow, which means you're very valuable and consistent as a worker, right?
You
Like,
will be
anything like
there.
that, and I've worked in the system so long, I could pull it out of thin air now. But being
Yeah.
able to be honest with what you're doing, and being able to pull what makes you valuable, whatever that may be, um, that could be a game changer for someone, especially say you haven't worked because of COVID. What have you done in the interim? Maybe you did a boot camp, or maybe you did YouTube University and you learned Figma. You have an example in your portfolio. Everything matters.
Yeah.
It's not what's
Yeah.
happening, it's what you've done with your time, right?
It, it's true. It's really interesting. You're saying like, you're talking about like, like a janitor. I was like, well, you you can handle your you can prioritize, right? You're detail oriented. You don't need to be micromanaged. You don't. And I was like, cool, man. Like those are great skills. Like I'm all about that. So I think, but that's it, right? Like find those. There's aspects that we're all really good at. Like it's focus on your value, right? Don't don't get into like the mental beatdown about it, and realize you have worth and you can bring it to the table. I think that's a really important thing to do. I'm sure that there's people, hiring managers out there on the outliers who truly do have age bias. But I feel the more and more you know the professional life is changing. I'm seeing so much diversity um, in the office, diversity in tech, and I love it, right? Because you can't solve a problem if you don't have diverse enough answers. Like you can't just solve it from a homogenous standpoint, right? That's not how you get things done. I'm thinking I'm seeing a lot more of that. One thing that comes into mind too, and this is for people who are coming into the workforce who maybe they took time off. Maybe they were like, no, like I stepped, I'm raising a family, or maybe something happened in their family. Career gaps, right? Like I hope I hope that the whole job gap situation is just a thing of the past. That question should just not be asked anymore. Like when people are like, "Well, I haven't seen been in the job force for 6 years." I'm like, that's kind of that's a personal question. It's kind of none of your
So what were
business.
you
And
doing? Keeping my
right, I'd be
sanity.
like, yeah, like do you really want to know the answer to that question? Like, do you want to be the person who asks that? I was like, no, man, that's too personal. And I was thinking about that today with some people who are kind of that I know are kind of getting back in, to to the professional fields and stuff like that. Um, and and I'm not sure. Are you familiar with objective based resumes?
Yes, but you should explain it for our audience just in case.
Okay. So, primarily, right, we kind of exist with a chronological based resume, right? It's I worked from, well, so I am 40, right? So I worked for this company from, '04 to '07 to, that kind of, right? And they want to fill in like they want to know where you are at all moments. Like that, like that matters. But, if there's a gap in your resume, they're like, oh, there's a gap in your resume. Like you had a choice. Like we live in a world of layoffs, right? You never know what's going to happen. We have personal family issues we need to take care of. And so an objective based resume fills in all of those skills and all of those skill sets and those examples that you have from your professional, but it doesn't put it into a timeline. So when you're looking at this, right, you're going, oh, this person can do this person can do that. They have experience with this, they have experience with that. It doesn't matter if you haven't been in the job force for 4 years, right? It's objective based. Um, and I'd like to see more of that come out because I think there's a huge bias towards having chronological resumes. And like even LinkedIn, right? You have to put in the years that you worked there. You can't just. And I'm really hoping that as we get into more work life balance, we're getting into more leniency, and we're trusting people more in the workforce, that we'll do away with that. Because I think, even though people are getting to the job force at different times, that I think that would really help just to really focus on what they can do, not so much like, oh, where have you been? Like, you're an adult. Like, it's not my problem where you've been. Like, um, I think that's still a bias that I'm seeing, but I'm really hoping that we'll do away with that, right? I think that really ties into the work life balance that we're trying to
I
promote
agree.
in our industry.
I agree. The thing is though, is you have to know how long someone worked in a field though. Like if so for example, if I'm looking at resumes and I'm like, oh, okay, I think I want to hire Andrew as a principal designer, but I need to verify that Andrew has either a PhD or he has like 10 years experience. So maybe instead of putting the years, it can be like spend 3 years here. Not saying that we should do that. This is just ideas, but I love the idea of like I took away when I earned my degrees, right? Because you can
Mhm.
kind of go back and age someone there.
Right, right.
But I
Yes.
think it'll be great to just once everything catches up with itself, and this is a thing, to be able
Mhm.
to say, okay, I worked 3 years here, I worked 4 years here, not necessarily from 2020 to 2024.
Right.
Um,
A hybridized resume.
yeah,
Yeah, that's a good idea. I like that too.
yeah,
I'm gonna see. We'll just try to move ourselves forward with that. Let's see if we
I
can
know.
start our own little revolution on that.
Yeah,
But I mean,
but the
there
age
are.
bias is definitely less than what it was, at least when I first started, for sure. I do think that it's still a thing, but it's a dying thing. I mean, not to be like morbid or anything, but it's I don't think it's gonna matter anymore because AI is too new, and we need all minds. Like it's not even we're not discriminating. We need the diversity that you spoke about earlier.
Yeah, and that's true. I mean, things are moving rapidly. I do. I feel like we see a lot of, some more archaic, business policies kind of going out the window. And I'm hoping that's one of those things as well. But I mean, at the same time, we do have opportunities. As far as you know staying sharp with learning and upscaling pathways like Careerist, where we have a software dev, QA, product design, that you can go in there from home. A lot of it can be self-paced, learn as you need to help you pivot into different jobs, which I think is really helpful. I love that the kind of traditional university path is not the only path these
Yeah.
days. Because not a secret, it's
Yeah.
not everyone can take the time off to go get their master's degree.
Say
Like
that
you
again.
know, yes, yeah. I'm gonna call my mortgage company and be like, hey guys, listen, like
I
I'm
need a year
gonna go back.
sabbatical.
Absolutely, you're gonna be totally fine with it, And so we do have, I think there's a lot of really good opportunities out there. Again, of course, careers, we're obviously big fans of it, and then
There's a Microsoft Learn out there,
mhm,
Unshamed Plug. There's the Googles out there with all these free things. edX is another one, EDX, where like Harvard, all these schools and universities have partnered to provide free learning for the masses because I mean, as a nation, we have to reskill ourselves in so many different areas. And so they're providing these opportunities. And I think it's free, but you pay if you want like the certificate. So you'll see a lot of people like on LinkedIn have like Harvard certificates and stuff like that. They didn't necessarily go to the school, but they still have um the title, which is
right,
cool.
right,
Like, and those are other options, right? I mean, of course we have YouTube University, but I mean, you got LinkedIn Learning. I've done it
yeah.
all, so
You have really like intellectual conversations on YouTube podcasts with tech, members of the tech world that you can really learn from, that are just really into, those kinds of things. There's a lot of opportunities out there, for expanding your learning. And that's another good point too, right? Like the Harvard thing. I've done a few of those courses as well, and they are really, they're really beneficial. They don't take a whole lot of time, but you have this on your resume, and it's not like people are like, so what's this Harvard thing? Is that like a school? Was that like a company you worked with? You're like, no, it's exactly what you think it is. So it does give you that boost as well. And I mean, even now, I mean, I've been in creative and tech for almost 25 years, and And but even that, like
Right?
I'm sorry, right. I just turned 40 like last week. And so but I've been doing this for a long time. But that those learning and upskilling possibility, like those aren't just for new learners either. Like that's just, you keep honing your skills, you want to get better at things. There's certain, you get different responsibilities at work, and they're like, okay, we need this blah 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 report by the, and you're like, absolutely, I have no idea how to do that. And so you just go and you're like, you find, and then you just, you have to go out, and but we have so many great resources for being able to do that now, which I think is really helpful. So kind of getting back into the age and, the bias and age bias, kind of getting back into the industry though. But there are things out there, when
Yeah.
you're sitting there, where you don't have to be like, man, I've been out of school for so long. Like, where do I have opportunities to learn? They're out there for everybody, and there's so much valuable information that you can just pick up,
I
and bring to
started
the
with
conversation.
Google. Yeah, I started Googling stuff when I first, and I'm like, okay, I no longer want to work at university. I want to work at a place that I feel valued, that I feel other people think is valuable. And so I just started Googling stuff, and then I ran into YouTube for about 2 weeks, and then I started meeting people, and then my algorithm started changing on like my social media platforms. And so, because I'm starting to look at UX stuff and research stuff. And so one thing led to another, and look at me now, right? Look
Right?
at me
Look at you
now.
now. Your bright yellow jacket, just bringing in the spring. I love it.
Bringing in the sun, you better believe it, absolutely.
Yeah, it's, I mean, and well, and also we touched base on this on our last call, or our last, was using AI to kind of create your own, like, personal lesson plan. You know, that is incredibly valuable. What skill is it that you want to learn? Like, the all you need to do is just ask the question, right? Everything is out there ready to go. So if you want to learn how to, you know, dev or product design, or if you are interested in a project management, which is a huge field out there, and we could all use better project managements in tech, by the way. So if
Yeah.
anyone's super interested in figuring out how to pivot their their responsible lifestyle into the tech world, project management is a great way to go. But how do I start that? With AI, you're like, hey, listen, I am this. I would like to be a project management. How do I start? AI will help you with that. It'll help put together, resources for you, books to read, check out YouTube, check out Google, like all of these things that allow people to pivot more smoothly, I guess is what I'm saying.
I'll tell you something I've done recently. Because you have to stay up to date. Like you don't just make it anymore. That's just not how it works. So even if you do get the job and you are the designer and you made it, right? Then, 6 months from now, AI is gonna do something else. And we're gonna have to reskill ourselves. So Udemy. I don't know how to say it. Is it some people say Udemy, some say Udemy, Udemy.
I say
I'm
you to me,
actually,
but yeah.
yeah, I don't know.
I
Tomato,
don't
tomato.
know.
Uh, but you guys don't talk about me in the YouTube comments. But um, but I've recently, I think I paid like $12, and I am going through prompt engineering. Not that I don't know how to use the technology, but there are other ways to do things, and I'm not the person who knows it all. So that's another avenue to reskill yourself. Of course, there's a plethora of options, but me being in the industry, or us being in the industry, we understand that AI is not going away. And there's going to be a couple of new currencies. Your ability to pay attention for a long period of time, right? Because YouTube and Facebook got us all messed up with our attention span. So that's one currency that has changed. And then the second currency is being able to utilize the technologies that are there. So you'll no longer be responsible for knowing the information. You will be responsible for getting the right information from the technology that has it. So are you able to talk and communicate with the technology in such a way that you can get the optimal or the most optimal result output? And so with that, I will not be left behind. You guys, if you've listened to at least 3 episodes by now, you have an idea of my personality. And if I can help it, I'm gonna try to stay at the top 1%. And
Absolutely.
prompt engineering is one of those things.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's I'm just gonna just say this publicly, right? For anybody who's listening, right? The ability to say I don't know is a superpower.
Yes, it is.
There's something out there that everyone feels like they need to know the answer to everything, and that is not realistic. And if you are coming across somebody who has the answer to everything, you're like, you don't know what's going on. But it's okay. Yeah, yeah. Be like, I don't know, but I will figure it out, or I'll find out how to do it, or I know how to research. Right? That is a true superpower. And like with AI and staying on top of it and taking those problems, being like, I could always be better at this. Like, how do I do this? I don't know, but I'm going to figure it out.
Right.
Like, that's the self-starting um, mentality that, we've talked about before, that's really important. Um, Tech is, uh, it's always growing, it's always moving. I have no idea what's going to happen next week, especially with AI. It's like every single week is something huge going on. So yeah, get out there. And for people who have not jumped into AI yet, who have heard about it, not quite sure what it is, I always like jump into Claude, jump into Chat GPT or Google Bar Gemini, and I just say just start talking to it, to a level that makes your family uncomfortable. Like, really get in there and just start asking questions, like ask for narratives and converse with it. It's a language model, right? It's not just a Google, you know, situation where it's just finding these answers for you. And I'm really hoping that people jump in there and use it for, everyday use. I used it to create a cheesecake recipe last night,
Yeah,
and
that's great.
it was brilliant. Well, I mean, I hope so. I haven't made the cheesecake yet, but it was a good idea. I was like, oh, okay, cool, right? Like, yeah, I mean, I use it for everything, not just business, but really to help me brainstorm, help me think out of the box. Um, yeah, it's just an incredible tool. And you were talking about Copilot last week, which I am starting to break into. I haven't. Um, gotten super, super deep into that rabbit hole, but I'm really excited about it. But yeah, another very powerful AI from our friends and families out there at Microsoft. Um, and Yeah, I think I couldn't encourage people more to really get in there. And you don't have to be a tech person or aficionado or feel like, I mean, really, it's the new frontier. It's the new frontier of communication, and people need to really jump in on that. Um, Yeah, yeah, really, yeah, it's really, really fascinating. Um, and then, yeah, so I mean, again, kind of moving back to like, using one skill set to pivot into an industry. Like, do you have any stories? Do you think of anybody? Like, I think about when I bartended, and I was like, they're like, "Well, how do you," when I'm at a job interview, and they're like, "Well, how do you handle yourself under pressure?" I'm like, "Fairly well." I bartended through college, and when you're six deep and it's loud and people are yelling at you and you are keeping your cool, like, I was like, I feel like that's a pretty good skill to bring to the table. Um, yeah, and then there's a lot out there for that kind of stuff. I hired a guy, um, one of one of my favorite designers that I ever got to hire. And on his resume, he organized like a big gamer, like a T3 game. I don't really remember what it is, but they have like this mass internet connection, right? And all these gamers, they hook up, and he did the marketing for it. He found local sponsors for it. Like, I know I'm just talking to this kid, right? I'm like sitting at the table, and I was like, well, tell me about this thing that you put together. And he's like, oh, I'm really into gaming. And, you really need a good connection. And there's this place that has it, but it's expensive. And so we were able to get like local sponsors, and then I did marketing for it, like all because he just wanted to game with his friends. And I was like, oh, blown away. I was like, I want you on my team. Like, whatever this
Absolutely.
is, whatever is going on inside of your head, we're going to hone this for good. And yeah,
We want
oh,
some of that. I
and
love that.
one of like my proudest like hiring moments, really. And he's still doing awesome. He's out in California now, but yeah, I mean, kind of, those are those kind of success stories out there for people who are really getting into tech or pivoting into tech, like using, what is your superpower, meditate. What is your superpower?
And I was, as you were talking, I'm over here a few because I'm like looking down because I'm like trying to Google at the same time. Like, what examples do we have? Because I see articles here and there. I don't always commit them to memory, but there are some people out there that have made CEO status or decided at the age of 40 that they were going to go into the tech world, and at the age of 60 they're a CTO, or a CEO for that matter. So you have Janice Whaley is one of those people. She's the first Black female CEO. You have um, someone named Uriah Burns, who's her husband actually, who kind of helped her through the process. These are people who are, you know, quote unquote older, right? Because what does that even mean with technologies? We're learning how to uncap our telomeres, um, which are on the tip of your chromosomes that help you live longer. Google it later. But like what? Yeah, I
Right.
know.
Yes.
I'm one of those. But there's many examples of individuals who did not go to college for that matter, let alone come straight out of college into the field, but were quote unquote normal people just like me who decided that they had kids one day and that they had to make sure that it was a better place for them. Or they had a husband who got discriminated against at work. And so they decided that they were going to be a part of the system to do something about it systematically than just complain or just march or whatever we do these days. And I think that's the type of inspiration and motivation that I admire and that we can all use a little bit of, and kind of take some of these preconceived notions out of our mind, such as the ageism or it's too late for anything because that doesn't exist anymore. I mean, my mom's 65 and she drives Uber now. Like, what? So it's never, I mean, as long as your body works and you got an internet connection, you can learn anything. It's really just about
Now we're all
um
gonna be on the lookout for Kamitha's mom. Like we're all just we're all gonna
and
be
her
like
name
we
is
just
Barbara too. She got one of them old school names. Barbara Ann. Yes,
Barbara Ann. We're
Barbara.
all on the lookout to hang out with Barbara
Give her
Ann
a
now.
tip.
She is out there.
But it just goes to show. I mean, think about this. Like how many, and this is being honest, right? So don't you guys don't, throw any stones at me. How many older people do you see at Walmart now? Or at Sam's Club or at Costco? Like I'm being really honest. Like you guys shouldn't be working anymore. But they are because they're choosing to because they don't want to sit at home. I've been asking, like, why are you here? Are you working because you have to? Are you working because you want to? I've only asked 3 people that because it can be a disrespectful question. Um, but in those cases, many of them are just, they're at home and they're bored, and so they're choosing to do something different. And I think in a lot of cases, once we decide what we want to do, we can do it.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just making the choice and whatever um, um, commitments come with that, because
yeah.
commitments are hard to make. If we're being honest,
Right, and they're even harder to keep. Um, but and especially when you are making a commitment to yourself, right? Because I feel like, I mean, I don't know about you, we are our own worst critics, right? So like, like I said, like we were talking about before, right? I was like that conversation in your head, right? That's just between you and you. And that means that you have complete control over this, right? That's the first thing to remember, right? And then, talking about the human skills that you bring with you, but something that you just reminded me of is what passions are you bringing with you, right? You don't have to, when you work in tech, it's not like you go to the tech building, it's like this is a serious industry change, right? And you could talk to people who are just like, no, I was in this, I worked at this job, they treated me poorly because of this, right? And now I am here to make a difference, right? I'm going to work on this team, or I'm going to show how, build diversity in tech. I'm going to show them how they're, like that passion, bring that to the table, right? You're not, again, if you're pivoting into a career after, 20 years experience and elsewhere, you're bringing that passion with you. And that's a huge thing, right? That's a very personal, powerful thing that can make a huge, huge difference in the right area. And again, like we were talking about, I think tech is one of those places where, well, it is one of those places where you can literally make something out of nothing, right? I tell all my students that it's like making gold out of hay. Like you have an idea, and I will work with you the entire way to make this thing a reality. Who can say that? Like, who can say, oh, yeah, basically my job is to create something purely out of a concept? Like, that's an incredible, creative, powerful, powerful, powerful thing to do. And when you come to the table with that kind of passion, they're like, no, this happened. I realize there's a need for this. I have this idea. I just need to know how to do it. I'm like, I can help you do that. That's incredibly powerful. And yeah, that's something for people to remember as well, is like not just the human skills you bring, but that passion that you bring with you. You can really, not just being like a member of the group, but you can really like, um, that the passion that you can share with people who maybe feel a little stagnant on that team is incendiary. You could really ignite that with other people, just like share that flame. And I think that's something that really people who are, those individuals who are kind of coming in or pivoting at an older age, that is a huge superpower that they can bring. I'm hoping that, when they're listening to this is something that they think of, keep in mind that, they can really bring a huge positive force of change to so many people, just by, being who they are. The worth that they bring is immense.
I think that's so important to mention. I get that all the time. To me, that's not. I get it sometimes. It's not true. Where people are like, man, you have great energy, right? Or you have, you bring so much energy to the team. And I used to really think that was cliche. Like, there has to be something else I'm doing besides bringing some energy to the team. Until you get to a team that does not have that energy and you understand how important it is, it's almost like being cold outside and running. And so after you're done, you're kind of hot in the inside, right? You're almost sweating because you got this coat on versus having this coat and this scarf and everything, and you're just sitting there. You're freezing, right? And so to your point, I will absolutely be the one with the energy because energy ignites things and makes things happen. And
Yeah.
it's important for people to like you. Not all the time, not all the time, but sometimes it's important for people to
Sometimes.
like you or like what you bring to the table because then they can mention your name in a room that you're not in. They can get you to the next level. Because what if that team needs the energy? They have really smart people, but there are introverts.
Mhm.
That happens all the time,
That
and they
happens
need
all
to
the time.
bring it out, right?
Yeah.
That may be your thing. You may not even be the best designer, right? So just make sure that you're hitting all areas. Be the best designer that you can be. Make zero excuses and be the best version of yourself. But please do not discount your personality and your perspective and all of the things that you bring to the table that make you an individual that other people don't have. I promise I always thought it was cliche, but the more I move around, the more I realize that people really care about energy. And it does feel good to be around someone who loves to live or loves what they do or they're really passionate about what they believe in. It does rub off on the people that are around them. So don't discount those things. If you're like, "Oh, what are you good at?" and I'm good at talking, play that up because not everybody can talk to stakeholders and talk to an audience with confidence, even if they're fearful. So please don't discount any of those things because I'm finding talking is a strength, and they call it storytelling in the tech world. It's a huge, huge, huge valuable component of our careers. So don't discount yourself in any area.
Right, it's almost like we like to talk. That's
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting too, like, and that's true. You don't have to be the best designer. You don't have to be the best developer. You know, you can we're always sharpening our skills, right? Things are always changing. You can always get better at it. You can always brush up on your Shakespeare, as
Yeah.
they say. And I think that's from Kiss Me Kate. I'm pretty sure, but I don't know. And but like you were saying, right? But if you're that hype person, right? If you can inspire people, oh man, sky's the limit. Like, being that person who's like, I don't know how we're doing it, but we're gonna and you just rah rah everybody. That's it. And here's another secret. This is a big secret that, I mean, I don't know if people know, but we're just gonna share it out. Um, is People want to hire people that they want to work with. That's really what it comes down to, right? You could be a great designer, but I don't want to hang out with you all day. We spend a lot of time with our coworkers. You want to hire someone who is a positive, force in your life, right? Coworkers make a huge input. They make a huge impact on emotional well-being. And and that's really what people want. Bring that to the table, you know? So again, it's all that kind of imposter syndrome. Like, what am I going to bring? Like these, and this is all, we're not talking about full stack developers here. We're not talking about how good is your job. Like this is not the conversation we're having. We're talking about the real values here, and they're all the human skill aspect, you know? And that's, you know, yeah. And be that positive person when you're interviewing with someone and they're just like, yeah, I really want to hang out with this person. Like I could learn a lot. I feel better around this person, you know? Um, that man, that'll seal the deal. Absolutely. Just sign that deal. Be like, you know, do you know Figma? Well, I mean, I know Sketch. I was like, we'll teach you Figma. Like it's just not, you know, like
Right.
don't worry about it.
I
It's not
like
that
your
much different.
idea.
Like, yeah,
I
you
mean, it's
know,
like
or
a relationship, right? You like somebody enough, you want to be around them more. If you don't like them less, you're only going to be around them when you have to.
right, and it is a relationship. I mean, it really is, and again, and everyone, and after that, people have their nuances. I love working with stakeholders. I love presentations. I like being able to figure out, and that's the marketer slash educator in me. Like, I want to figure out how do I communicate a subject in a way that engages them. So, you know, and it's something that I've always enjoyed doing. And I enjoy doing a campaign. I enjoy doing it with stakeholders now. I mean, I'm a designer, all that kind of stuff, but that's one of my favorite things. And that's like, and so whilst that's a strength of mine, you know, there are definitely better Figma designers that I work with, right? Like you can't be everything to everyone, but everyone offers a certain strength, and that whole team balances out, right? So, you know, anybody who's interested in getting into tech, but their code's not, as good as they want it to be, right? Or their design skills are not as great as they think they should be, or whatever. Like, don't let that stop you. Don't let that stop you from sending your resume to your dream job. Don't let that stop you from reaching out on LinkedIn and say, "Hey, can I borrow 30 minutes so I can talk to you about my resume? Can I buy you a cup of coffee?" Right? Like we said before, and as my mother always said, right? If you don't ask, the answer is always no. So don't be the roadblock in your life. You know, go out there and take that risk, and it's okay. Don't you're not going to be 100%. There's always going to be someone better than you, and there's probably going to be someone better than them. You know, and that's fine. Just, you know, accept that. We all accept it. Just move on and be like, yeah, I'm a solid 86% and I'm good with that. You know, like, yeah,
Hey,
don't
86 is a B now. Hey,
right. I'm cool with that. I mean, you know, like, but those are those things that people have in their heads that kind of beat them down. That, you know, that they're constantly thinking, they are stopping them from pressing apply now, sending out a resume, or keeping their portfolio clean. You know, like, which I think we're going to get into in a later podcast. But those are all conversations that we control. Those are conversations in our head, right? So, you know, as I say, if you're going to fantasize about something, why not it be fantasizing about being on a cruise ship and like having all you can eat shrimp? Like, don't fantasize on the bad stuff, fantasize on the fun stuff. Like, you're choosing your own brain time. And I think people, yeah, just keep that in mind. It's all, mental health is super important, right? And keeping that positive standpoint. Don't be your worst enemy at all, ever.
yeah.
Go out there and take your chances.
And
Um,
authenticity is power.
yeah, it really is.
Authenticity is power, and I'm not saying going in there all crazy because you're from a certain place, you've always been that way.
Hmm.
Because there are some adjustments that you'll have to make. Maybe you have to slow down when you speak, right? Because you're in a different audience and you want to make sure that your words are impactful, right? So maybe there's some adjustments or some, you like that example?
Is that a hint?
maybe, maybe there's some adjustments or something needed there, but I am finding I have so much more fun when I am being my authentic self, and people have they enjoy seeing authenticity, even if it's not normal, even if your design isn't the best. But if you're able to talk about why you did it, why you chose the colors, what your thought process was behind it, and authentically what you wanted to do to help our users, you'll be very surprised how far you get. Because sometimes it's about the design and sometimes it's about the why behind the design. And if you're able to explain it enough. So I cannot tell you enough. I'm getting further along in life the older that I am, maybe because I'm more comfortable with myself. But I also think it has everything to do with I'm just much more authentic. Because I don't care as much anymore. No,
Yeah.
because I'm older and I'm I understand the value
Sure, sure.
of the individual, your individual self, and
Yeah.
what that means for companies.
I mean, and that statement's kind of true, right? Like in this world, I think just in the business world, and especially cutting my teeth in the creative world, leave your ego at the door. Like critique is just free education that people give you. So don't take it personally, right? And as a product designer, right? I'm not designing for me. I'm designing for the user. If I've overlooked something, if there's something that could be better, this is not an attack on me. This is instruction to help me see something in a new perspective, which is always going to be beneficial. So yeah, I think being your authentic self, and another thing is, of course, and having that table, but also know that you're not going to be alone. When you're, something, with careers that I love is that you have time to talk with students. What do they want to do? Do they want to pivot into Google? Do they want to start their own business? Whatever it is, right? Like you're not going to be alone. We're going to help you do it. And then, and when they leave our nest and they move on to the great, Fang company in the sky, you're not going to be alone there either. You're not. There are going to be people out there that you can talk to, rely on, ask questions. You're going to find people who can mentor you, and believe it or not, you're going to find people that you will mentor as well. It's a community. It's a community out here. And the tech world, right, is in itself very tight community. Like not just with our education online and then our jobs, right, but um, you know our online forums and going out there and saying, hey, I'm working on this code, or I'm trying to solve this problem, or take a look at this work, right. you know it's a very interesting, very proud group of us who are just like really into what we do, and we're really into helping people and really into like giving a leg up. And so that's another thing I don't want people to be afraid of, to pivot into a new industry or getting into the industry, if you're young, getting into the first time, if you're pivoting, getting back into the job force, moving careers, like you're not in it alone. um, there's so many people out there who are there to help you. They're there to help you sharpen your skills and help you figure your way around. Like, um, yeah, they need to just remember it. Like it's all going to be okay. I promise, it's going to be fine. Just go out there and take those chances.
I agree. And I know we're getting close to time. And I'm saying everything is a strength. Like authenticity is a strength. Vulnerability has been a lifesaver for me lately. Being okay with saying that I don't know.
Yeah, yeah,
And when I do that, or when I've done it in the past, at least in a work scenario, someone will come along and say, "Okay, I can get you in touch with someone who can give you more information," or "Hey, I know the answer," and now I'm that much smarter for the next person. So this has definitely been one of the most humbling experiences, besides having kids, because they're humbling too. Um, One of the most humbling experiences where you realize that you're smart, but you're not as smart as you think you are, but you're
sure,
still very smart, and you have to give yourself credit for that too. So it's one of that it's the sandwich thing where you give bad news, good news in the middle, and then
right,
the other opportunity, not bad news, opportunity at the end. But
right,
I want to
right.
start another topic because I'm good for it, Andrew. So
Yeah,
totally
no,
good
I'm down. Oh, I think
for
that's.
it.
I think this is really good, though. I mean, there's a lot of people who are, excuse me, pivoting in to a new career. And actually, I was talking to one of my students about this last week, and he's like, he's in his late 40s. He's like, I don't know what to do, and I was like, well, let's just talk about your past, all of these things that you and I are talking about right now, Kamitha, like these are all very valuable. And I think we have an eye out for this kind of stuff. This is where we're at. We're educators. We work in tech. I think that's our world. But this is not. I mean, a lot of people they don't think about it, right? They're like, I'm starting fresh. It's a clean slate. I was like, you are bringing so much experience with you. That you have so much value that you can bring that would benefit so many businesses, people, projects. You can inspire a lot of people. Like remember that. And I
Right.
think that's, all of the, I mean, this is like a great hype conversation, right? I like being a hype guy, but it's also doesn't mean it's not true.
Yeah.
And I think that people need to remember that it is scary moving into things that are new, right? It's
It
like,
is.
it's like middle school all over again, which I will never do again in my life. Like one of the most frightening transitions. Um, but I guess, one thing I think, which I love about this conversation that we covered is like, it doesn't have to be that scary, right? Like, I hope that I hope when they're listening to this, like, it gives them some reassurance that, it's going to be fine, right? Take those risks. We all did it. We are here for you. We understand what it's like. And I'm hoping, I'm hoping this has encouraged some people to press, apply now, or say, all right, well, I'll take a look at that course on Careerist, or, like, I was always, I'll reach out to that person that I've always been interested in getting coffee with. I hope we got some, I hope we,
Leave us some
there's,
comments. We'll love to know. I would love to hear
I would
some
love,
comments.
and yes, and now, I don't know if you saw, but we are now shared across the internet. So we have been posted on YouTube, of course, but now we are also on Apple Podcast. We're on
Oh,
Spotify and YouTube Music, which was formerly Google Podcasts. Sorry, Google. But yeah, so we're now just we're cornering the podcast market.
give ourselves
So
a round of
yes,
applause.
yes.
That's amazing.
Cheers to us, and cheers to our team at Careers for so much
Yes.
support and just letting us do this and just letting us talk about these things every week. I'm hoping that we'll get some comments on this. I'm really hoping maybe that this is the pick me up that someone needed.
Look, if we start getting endorsements, I'm gonna wear a color blazer every week and I'm gonna get a brooch.
You heard it here first, everybody. Let's make this dream happen, right? Let's make this dream work.
And also, let me say this because you mentioned something earlier and we you brushed over it, but I don't want our audience to think that we did so. And I know that you're not into birthdays, but for the whole
Mm.
world to know, happy belated birthday, Andrew.
Thank you so much, Kimutha. I appreciate it. Shh, just quiet now.
Happy birthday. Yes.
Quiet. I appreciate it. Well, we are coming to time here. But yeah, great conversation. I really, I hope someone out there was just like, all right, fine, I'll do it. Stop yelling at me. So, and get going and take that chance. We took a chance, and it really worked out. And so hopefully that will happen for other people. It will, and it absolutely will. They just gotta, self-worth, right? Be cool with yourself. Be your best friend. Hype yourself up. Everything's gonna be fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I'm sure we'll touch base on it. It's a good topic.
Just do
But
it like the Frankie sign. Until next
just,
time.
absolutely. Till next time, Camille. It's always a pleasure. I'll talk to you next time.
See you guys next week.
All right. Bye, everybody.